All your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the We Book It podcast. Let's start the show.
Come on, guys. You guys didn't think I would forget about you, did you? Did you? Of course not. Your boy Virgil holding it down right here on the We Book It network for you guys. And guess what? You get a double dip tonight. That's right. Not only do you get who's next with NXT, but I'm also going to cover the All Elite recap for Coachman this week, who is out on assignment for his baseball team coaching. Shout out to Coach. They didn't pull the big W that they needed, but hey, listen, they're building towards something. Shout out to him. He'll be back with you next week. Now, with that being said, the April 28th, edition of WWE NXT saw the brand dealing with the fallout of WrestleMania weekend and NXT Revenge, highlighting new stars in the wake of multiple call-ups. Tony D'Angelo addressed his NXT challengers for the NXT Championship. Lizzie Rain makes her debut. Ricky Saints hoped to make his statement to the expense of Shiloh Hill. Miles Bourne defended the North American Championship against Saquon Sugars. And, of course, who wouldn't want to make their mark? Which stars will set the course for the beginning, a brand new beginning for NXT? Guys, listen, this is almost a brand new revamp of NXT with everything that they got going on. I'm like super excited, y'all, to be covering the brand new version of NXT. Basically, all the stars that we've known, all the stars that we've covered for the past year, guys, are all gone. That's right. It's all brand new, as they would say, a whole new world. It's a whole new world, a whole new bit of people in NXT. So let's start with the first match. North American Championship. It's Miles Bourne going up against Saquon Sugars for the NXT North American Championship. So Dark State tried to interfere early to take down Bourne, but the champion fought hard to avoid any distractions. During the early parts of this match, the turnbuckle got partially exposed, allowing Sugars to send Bourne into unprotected steel and take over. The champion fought back, countering all off of the ropes with a crossbody for a near fall. Then Dark State got involved again, trying to distract the referee. Dion Lennox threatened to attack Bourne with a steel chair during the distraction, but Sugars stopped him. Bourne sent Sugars into Lennox, followed by a Bourne again for the victory. Afterwards, a newcomer to NXT, Mr. England, Tristan Angel, warned Bourne that he was here to make a statement, followed by a sneak attack on the champion by LFG's Cam Hendricks. This was a rushed opportunity for Sugars, who has extremely limited singles experience, but even Dark State as a whole lack credibility right now to pull off the upset with interference. However, Sugars worked well in this spot, and Bourne got another title defense to his name. Listen, I'm telling you guys, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. This is going to be one of those things where you are going to, oh, snap, we got people commenting. You said Rafa Nakaruma says, hello. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And then, of course, how are you today? Says, hi. Hey, how's it going? Appreciate you for tuning in and watching. Now, with that being said, to figure out finish my thought, we have right now, when I look at what we got going on in NXT, especially with Dark State, there's a split coming for Dark State, guys. Be clear. Let's be clear about this. Dark State is going to end up splitting up. You already kind of see it. Sugars kind of end up being a baby face out of this, with the rest of the guys trying to figure out or trying to beat his ass. So we'll see what happens with that. The show started with the highlight reel of NXT Revenge. And it showed a video earlier today of Robert Stone talking with Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom about challenging this roster to break out and to make a name for themselves. So it's really weird, though, when you think about Dark State, because they started so strong, so fast at NXT that it feels like they are actually on track to drop below the brand new additions to the roster from Evolve and LFG. So we'll just have to see what happens with them. Next up, Tony D'Angelo meets Evil and faces a surprise attack. So Tony D'Angelo comes out and asks whoever called him out with a box last week to come out and face him. The lights went out, and a new NXT threat arrived in the form of Evil. The former IWGP heavyweight champion handed D'Angelo a scroll indicating war was coming for him. As Evil walked away, Tavion Heights laid out the NXT champion with a belly-to-belly before a mystery man, the English pro wrestler Will Cruz, hit the champ with a moonsault. No matter how hard NXT is working to build new stars quickly, the approach of throwing a bunch of wrestlers at the screen doesn't really work, guys. Like I said, you got to build guys in. I understand that they want to introduce so many new stars and they don't have a lot of TV time to be able to do it. They only have 2 hours, but they're trying to get you faces of all these different guys that are going to be coming to NXT and going to be in the mix. Vic Joseph put over Evil big while giving the surprise Cruz attack. Is that a fan? Hopefully that isn't an intentional gimmick call. It is unclear what Evil's NXT name will be yet, but the crowd knew his New Japan name immediately. Tatum Paxley and Shiloh Hill laid out Blake Monroe to rest in the graveyard. That's because Blake Monroe has been called up to the main roster. Next up, we have Birthright versus EK Prosper and Sean Legacy. So Birthright arrived with a smile, mocking their opponents before revealing they had laid out Dorian Van Dukes backstage. Prosper arrived, followed quickly by a returning Legacy, starting a brawl that became a tag team match. Prosper and Legacy showed chemistry that outshined Birthright throughout the contest, winning with Legacy's shambles on stacks. Birthright attacked both men after the match until Evolve's Tate Wilder came in to make the save. Losses like this certainly do not help Birthright standing in NXT, but it was nice to see Legacy back in action. The action was fast-paced and made Legacy look great in a new look NXT. He should be a major rising star for the brand. What is this? Alex the Great says, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe and you can see the statement is not true. So normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you go, I'll guess Alex is still typing. Keep typing, Alex. I'll come back to you. But yeah, back to this. Backstage afterwards, Stone put over Tate and welcomed him to NXT. Callie Armstrong got in Jada Parker's face in the locker room until the women had to break it up. NXT aired a quick video announcement from Shawn Michaels that NXT premium live events would air on the CW going forward. We will actually talk about that and tackle that on Sunday's podcast because it's even bigger than that. CW is now partnering with ESPN. So if you have the ESPN app, you'll be able to catch all the CW content also. Lola Vice gets ahead of the culling thanks to none other than Mr. Iguana. Lola Vice charged to the ring to call out Izzy Dame. Sean Spears appeared on the Titantron to distract Vice from the arrival of Dame and Nico Vance. Vice countered with the arrival of her AAA mixed tag team champion partner, Mr. Iguana, and the champions cleared the ring together. This was a better and more focused segment than last week, and Angry Vice is a better promo, allowing her to seamlessly mix English and Spanish to keep it short. Now, 2 weeks ago, 3 women stepped up as future challengers to Vice, but 2 of them have lost interest quickly. So that's kind of odd booking there. But again, we'll see what happens from that. Next up, we got Lizzie Rain making her NXT debut, and she is going up against none other than a returning Nikita Lyons. It looks like WWE, especially NXT brand, has a renewed interest in Nikita Lyons now that she is healthy. She has also dropped a ton of weight, and she is back to make a name for herself. So Lyons quickly knocked down Rain with a roundhouse and split leg drop, but Rain refused to stay down. The NXT newcomer came back in a flurry with machine gun chops in the corner with the crowd behind her. After an uppercut in the corner, she hit the thunderstruck knee for the victory. Very, very quick match here, but Rain immediately got the crowd behind her and ran with that energy. She made Lyons look better than she has in a while in NXT and still took her down in convincing fashion. This was not a squash, which was the right way to present her. NXT relies too often on simple squashes early. You're going to see a lot of the Nikita Lyons back at NXT. And of course, Reign is the new shiny toy for Shawn Michaels to build around on that NXT roster. You expect her to be fighting for that NXT North American Women's Championship any day now. Keilani Jordan versus Ren Sinclair was the next match. Jordan dominated the match early and took advantage of the knee injury Sinclair suffered after a drop kick off the apron. Jordan hit a springboard cutter and went to the frog splash. Sinclair got the knees up to protect herself, but could not capitalize due to the pain in her knee. In response, Jordan attacked the knee again and hit the one-of-a-kind moonsault to win the match. This was a solid, if not unspectacular, match that allowed Jordan to build more heat. The focus on the knee was clear and built to the finish, but did not allow for many interesting sequences. While this is a repeated point, Jordan simply does not have the style necessary to play heel and seems to be hurting her stock trying to sell this character as a heel character. It's just not something that she can potentially do. We'll have to see what happens from there. Next up, in your main event, you got Ricky Saints going up against Shiloh Hill. Saints had control early in this contest until Hill disappeared under the ring. Saints pulled out a dummy decoy, allowing Hill to reappear and lay out the former NXT champion. Saints found his way back into the action after a counter to the standing 360 senton, followed by a spear for a near fall. Hill fought back and hit the 360 senton for a near fall. Saints hit an explosive superplex of his own for a near fall. The Revolution knocked Hill's tooth out. While this seemed to awaken something in Hill, he still managed to hit the Rochambeau on the floor. Saints brought a steel chair into the ring. Hill tripped him into it, followed by the Whisper to the Beast for the victory. While this was not a spectacular match, it clearly stood out in the night, selling Hill as a threat to about anyone in NXT, while Saints seemingly is on his way to SmackDown. That's right. He is Cody Rhodes' boy. He will be on SmackDown with Cody Rhodes. I know you guys are super excited for that. Like I said, meanwhile, again, it's one of those things where he gave a speech afterwards and did his thing there. And that was your show. Overall, guys, for NXT this week, it felt rushed. They are scrambling to introduce new stars to us so that we can make sure that they cover all of the call-ups that Nick Khan and Triple H have done in calling up all these other superstars. There's even news that Shawn Michaels begged Triple H and Nick Khan to give him at least 6 more months with the young OG before he called him up. They wanted to keep him until at least after WrestleMania. But like I said, Triple H and Nick Khan both agree with, I guess, none other than MJF when they say, and they said WWE needed to get younger and get younger, cooler stars going. So again, that's what you see here. So, once again, that is your NXT recap. Now let's move on to AEW. That's right. This week on AEW, you got Double or Nothing coming up May 24th. But All Elite Wrestling president Tony Khan has already started planning the show and hyping the various feuds that will make up the card. This week's show featured 4 huge title matches. You got Darby Allin versus Brody King for the AEW World Championship. You got Kevin Knight versus MJF for the TNT Championship. You got Kazuchika Okada. I can never say Okada's first name right. Anyways, Okada versus Ace Austin for the International Championship. You have Divine Dominion versus Chris Statlander and Hakura Shida for the Women's Tag Team Championships. You got Cage and Cope versus RPG Vice. You got Rush in action, and you got the Brawling Birds in action for this one. So the night kicked off with Kevin Knight versus MJF for the TNT Championship. So after a quick video package showing what happened on last week's show, we went live in the arena to MJF's entrance for the opening TNT title bout against Kevin Knight. After some long introductions that included a huge banner for MJF, the match got underway. He kicked Knight in the gut and took him outside of the ring to start inflicting as much damage as possible by ramming him into the steel steps. MJF usually comes into his matches playing mind games and trying to play it cool. So it was actually pretty fun to see him play an angrier version of himself and waste no time trying to get the upper hand. So these two are young stars who could carry AEW for several years to come. So seeing them lock horns felt like what could be the stars of a long-term feud that AEW can go back to multiple times whenever they need something. To the surprise of nobody, this was a very physical encounter. Knight brought brought the exciting moments with his offense, and MJF garnered a lot of boos with his usual heel tactics. This was a great start to the show and built on their previous encounter back in March. Knight actually ended up defeating MJF in this match. What a hot way to kick off AEW for this week. The kickoff Dynamite. It just really, really set the tone. I like using MJF or a bigger star to start the night in a match. And this is something that I really get pissed about with WWE. I feel like every show opens the same. It has to be a talking segment. And I just I'm so tired of that. Like I wish sometimes they would just start with a match. I don't think there's too much to ask to switch things up and to start with matches. But it is what it is. Next up, we go Brawling Birds versus Emily Jane and Jordan Blade. So Jamie Hayter and Alex Winder were in action against Emily J and Jordan Blade, two wrestlers from the indie scene. This was a little more than an excuse to give Hayter and Windsor a decisive win. The other team didn't get a single amount of offense before they were beaten in under 2 minutes. If you ever want to show someone a squash match, make it this one. It was the definition of the word, just meant to make the Brawling Birds look complete. Allen offered Knight a title shot for next week if he survives King tonight. Renee Paquette also sounded like she was either sick or lost her voice during a backstage interview. Blade had unique gear and looked pretty cool. So next up, we got Okada versus Ace Austin for the International Championship. I really like the look of this belt. I don't know why. It just speaks to me. I think Tony Khan has had some beautiful belts made, I would say. But let's do it. Okada was getting a nice reaction for his entrance until Don Callis came out to join him for his match against Ace Austin for the international title. This was the biggest opportunity Austin has had since coming to AEW, and despite losing most of his matches on our AEW TV, he has been winning most of his ROH outings. Sometimes you forget that Tony Khan also owns Ring of Honor and also runs that still as its own separate entity and promotion. And which is crazy because we're supposed to be the We Book It podcast, supposed to cover all this stuff. But I don't lie to y'all. I'm not watching it. I'm not watching Ring of Honor. I'm not. There's no way I'm watching that shit. Anyways, the Rainmaker cornered him and stomped him into the ground right away. He had a significant height and power advantage and made sure Austin knew it. This wasn't exactly David versus Goliath, but it was close. Austin was definitely the physical underdog, but he did a good job using his offense to make himself look like a potential threat at times. However, the ending of this match was a foregone conclusion. AEW is not about to change the title a few weeks before it's set to be defended in a pay-per-view and a long-running storyline that is finally going to move forward. So we'll see what happens with that, but Okada did defeat Austin in this one. Next up, we go Cage and Cope versus RPG Vice. Will Ospreay had a video with the Death Riders. He appeared to have taken them up on their offer to turn him into a more dangerous competitor. For the first time on Dynamite, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage teamed up for a tag team match against Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. FTR came out to watch from ringside while Stokely Hathaway joined the commentary team. Cage and Romero started with a pretty standard opening sequence before Copeland tagged in for a double team spot. The conglomeration showed up in the crowd and got into the fight with FTR and Stokely, while RPG Vice had Cage on the defense. The chaos in the middle injected some energy into this bout, but the four guys in the ring didn't really need it to make this a fun match. RPG Vice is a great tag team, and the skills of Cope and Cage have been documented for the past few decades, so they found their groove really quickly. Cage and Cope defeated RPG Vice in this match. Of course they did, because they're going for the titles. You want to make them look strong going into that match. Next up, we got Divine Dominion versus Sheeta and Statlander for the Women's Tag Team Championships. So Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida had their biggest match since becoming a team when they challenged Megan Bayne and Lena Cross for the tag team titles. Shida got started for her team. She was giving up mostly size in this bout. She allowed her to fall into the role of an underdog against her much stronger opponents. This allowed Stat to play the heavy hitter when the time was right for a tag. Statlander actually stopped Sheeta from cheating with her kendo stick at one point, which led to a breakdown in communication between the challengers. This was a hard-fought match, but it felt like they were missing something. It's hard to pinpoint what it was. It might have been the pace that didn't allow for much selling, but all four competitors still put in some good work here. Divine and Dominion defeated Statlander and Sheeta in this one. So, like I said, it is what it is. We move on from there to Rush versus Steven Fuente. So, Rush had a match this week against a local talent named Steven Fuente. El Toro Blanco punched his opponent right in the mouth a split second before the bell rang. The former RH world champion destroyed his opponent at ringside before bringing him back into the ring. This is more of a one-way mauling than a wrestling match, which also can be fun at times. As expected, Rush picked up the easy squash over a young man who was hopefully paid very well for each strike he had to endure. Then after that, we go to our main event on AEW, and it is Darby Allin versus Brody King for the World Heavyweight Championship. For the third week in a row, we got a men's world title bout on Dynamite featuring Darby Allin. This time, his challenger was Brody King. They met to shake hands in the middle of the ring before Allin ran at King to hit a drop kick. The powerhouse quickly recovered and started throwing the champion around like it was nothing. These two have never had a slow, methodical wrestling match, and this time was no different. They went balls to the wall, 0 to 60 immediately, and did not slow down. Both men speak the same language of violence, so their encounters are always entertaining. After a few bit spots outside the ring, Allin managed to retain his title clean by pinning King. Knight looked on from the crowd as the champion and challenger showed each other some respect after it was over. Yeah, that was your NXT breakdown. Guys, listen, I appreciate each and every last one of you for tuning in. Make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss anything we got going on over here on the We Book It channel. Hey, listen, this week, there will be no SmackDown Lowdown on Friday night. Instead, Teddy Long is going to do it on Saturday morning. He's going to be a Saturday morning Friday night SmackDown Lowdown. So to make sure you guys tune in for that live stream. And of course, as always, we got Sunday nights. You guys don't want to miss that. It's going to be a blast. Until next time, thank you. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Remember, keep that book and pencil sharp and keep on booking.